Yes, so welcome to Vasily's Garden, folks. Well, this is probably the last hot day we're going to have for summer because we're at the end of summer, or nearly there, and we're going to drop down to about 21 degrees. Now, I should have made this a topic earlier on in the season before we got into the heat wave, but you know, as Australia weather has it for us, it'll probably spike up again through autumn, the autumn period. Now, what I'm holding in my hands here are two irrigation timers. These are old ones, and they're not anything special. Pretty average units. You've got different quality out there, of course. Some will last you a lifetime, others will last you an hour. Now, these ones have been good for me so far, but I do want to run through a few pointers on irrigation, irrespective of what type you install. You can have standalone battery ones like this because we haven't got power all over this property, and I've got taps that run 200 metres away. There are some now with little solar panels that work really well as well. But regardless of whether they're battery operated, have a look at this one, 9-volt battery we got in there. Some come with 2 AA batteries and things like that. Regardless of whether they have a battery or a solar panel on them, or even the ones that are hardwired to power, they all need to be serviced regularly. Now, I've gone running around here checking all our timers. I think I've got about 14 of these running on the property, and they all turn on at different times. So they never turn on at the same time because you lose too much water pressure if you've got 5 or 6 turning on at once, and you'll find you get no irrigation done properly. So it's very ineffective doing that. So the aim is to be able to get them to turn on one after the other for at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours, depending on the season and the heat of the day, and to make sure you get a good deep watering. I'm referring to drip systems mainly. I find them to be the most effective. You do still need to hydrate the surface with a spray, so you can install sprays, micro sprays if you like, for lawn areas, obviously pop-ups. These don't regulate the pressure, but rather the on and off function. So it's all in your water pressure that will determine how big or how many sprayers or pop-ups you install and how many lines or the distance of drippers you have. Each hole in the dripper, for example, does 2 litres per hour. So if you've got, if you do a flow rate on your watering and you can get about 30 litres a minute, do the sums on that, working backwards from the hour on the 2 litres, and you'll learn or work out how many meters you can actually roll out before you lose pressure to the point where the drippers don't actually drip. They may just start to perspire right near the surface of the pipe, and that's going to be very ineffective. For more information like that, you can email me and I can help you through some of the tips on how to work out and the advice on how many meters you can run per line or per tap when it turns on. But even more importantly, before we go to the actual irrigation or the pipe itself, it's getting to the timers. Now, you can have ones that run on solenoids, so the timer's just a switching station, and the solenoids will turn on and off according to the programming. They're great. They're normally submerged in a pit, so they're not seen and away from direct sunlight. These ones, by comparison, sit out in the full blazing sun at the best times of the day or year, and they can get somewhat worn out or dried out. So what I'm referring to more so is the ball shaft inside there that switches on and off automatically by the timing. Now, me running around, checked out all my timers, switched them on, had a quick look, they all started dripping. That was fine. We're going back a couple of months. And, I didn't have to go out there in my own head thinking, oh, they're doing their job. So I'd just go and check out the plants and see how they're going. I was looking over here and you'll see the ligustrums in the background. I cut them back. There were plenty of foliage on top. We had a lot of summer growth on them. And as soon as I cut them back, I saw all the dead wood underneath there, a lot of dry wood. Now, ligustrum, for most people who know them, they suck up a lot of water. They love a good feed. They yellow off real quick and they grow bloody fast. So you're almost pruning those 4 or 5 times a year on a good season. Now, they dried out, and then I had a closer look at them and noticed there was a little bit of wilt in the leaf. And they run on the one line here. We've got a few English box and standard roses. I was trying to work out why they're not getting the water, so I've gone down underneath there because you can see it's a hedge and you can't see inside where the drip line is, but I did sort of bury my head in there and realise it's dry as a bone. No water getting in there. Point here is the ball shaft is where the problem was. The timer was turning on, and I'm going to install it here for you to give you an example. So let's have a look at this tap. Pressure, perfect. All right, so we know there's pressure there. Now, this is the one that I had a problem with earlier on, folks. It wouldn't turn on. Now, I'm thinking because you get a lot of sediment in the water coming through, there's a little filter on the end. Let me show you this one here. So there's a little filter there, but that's a tiny little filter. This doesn't take much for that to get blocked up. Now, a lot of stuff can get through that too, so the micron size of that may be not small enough to stop all the finest of stuff, you know, the silt that comes through the sandy loam soil and things, because that's where we are out here. Now, what can happen is sediment will go through here, hit the little ball valve that's inside there, and because the ball valve's in the sleeve, that just all it does, it turns at 90 degrees and allows the water to go through, and then just by switching it off, it turns itself back off again and creates a blockage there. Now, if any sediment gets in there whilst there's pressure from the water in it, it may fall onto the ball itself, the ball valve itself, and cause it to, you know, get jammed or something like that. It stops it from being able to turn. And that's what I found happen there. Now, by taking it off that I've done, I've taken the pressure off it because there's constant pressure in here. For example, now, did you hear that? I'll just turn it off again. You're not going to hear it now, but the water's already pressurized onto the ball valve. So now there's pressure coming from the tap onto the little timer here. And now all I'm going to do is turn it on and see if it actually, see, there we go. See what's happened? Ball valve's jammed up. Now that's because there's pressure on there, on the ball valve, before I switched it on. So much water pressure, it's probably worn out the housing that sits inside, that turns. And as it turns, if there's any sediment in there as well, that becomes friction. And that forces a lot of pressure on the ball valve. Now, let's try a different method. We'll turn this off. That's off. I'm going to take the pressure off the unit and the ball valve, release it on this side. Let's have a listen. Okay, that's flowing through to the gut and no timer on that. So there's no pressure on this now. Now let's turn it on without the water pressure. It's on, water's coming through. Let's turn this on. Oh, it's seized up again. All right, let's try it again. You can hear that on. No, it's had it. Yep, it's had it. See, timer's on, no water's coming through. Off, on. Won't turn the ball valve. Too much water pressure on it. There's your problem. This is what can happen to your timers, folks, and especially the standalone ones with the battery or the little solar panels. You can buy top of the range and probably last you a lot longer, but still at the end of the day, you need to check them. And if they don't work after taking the pressure off, like I have, that's on. No, again, it won't go through. You're not going to get irrigation into your garden bed, so you can put all the superfood and black grit and compost on it. It ain't going to work. I've just unscrewed it here to release any water pressure that may be in it, because by just doing the other side may have not been enough to help the ball valve switch. But it just may be a case where there's just too much sediment in there. So I'm going to turn it on. It's already on. That's on. Yep, just clicked on. No, doesn't want to work. It's had it. So in the bin it goes. If it's malfunctioning on and off intermittently, chances are it's never going to work again. Even if you get it working for once or twice, by the third or fourth go, folks, it's going to seize up again. So things like that. Wait, let me take the water out completely. Shake it, shake it. Oh, there go the batteries. It's all ready to go out. I'm going to just try it one more time and see if I can actually get water to come through it. That's on. Last chance before it goes into the recycle bin. Yep. There you go. And now it's seized up again. Done. It's had it. Save the battery and get rid of that. I'll show you one more tap. This is the other one that I had a problem with. Now this one is just a dial. I've got it on open all the time. And it's running through. You can hear it now. So this goes to the trees around, all the way around the dam. And the silver birches, don't mind the tall grasses, and the citrus trees down there as well, folks. So this here, all we used to do was just turn on this lever. This is where I'm going with all of them. I'm going to get rid of all these full, 10 turns taps, the traditional taps. Just going to go with a shut-off valve like that on all of them. Eventually change all of them, and then basically almost get rid of these ones if I can, or get even the next model up from that, so we don't have all this leaking happening, because that's just becoming brittle and shrinkage on the plastic, and that's causing it to leak. So we've changed all the O-rings on them as well, but it hasn't done anything. And here's the drip. So you can see the dripping. There we are. So we've got water in here. But what happened to this one here? The filter right inside here, the little strainer inside there had clogged up, and it was caked over with silt from sandy loam. So there must have been some repairs done in the street somewhere out there, and our pipe was exposed, and just sediments got inside, and it blocked up to this tap here. And these trees, even though we were turning them on, were getting no water at all. And I noticed it literally overnight, and it happened overnight, so it wasn't a long period where they were missing out on it. But the day that I watered them and I went outside to have a look at them the next day, they were wilting, and that was after a hot day, and it really did knock them out a bit. So I came out here. The funny thing is, I turned on the tap, I could hear the pressure. I didn't check, I put this pipe here now because I didn't have any drip line, I had just black poly, so I'd have to walk 20 metres to go and see where it's dripping. So instead I put a drip line into this section here, so I could see it right next to the tap if it's working, and that was the easiest way to do it. But prior to that, I went around looking for pressure because I thought I was losing pressure somewhere. So I checked every timer and tap, everything was off. I even turned off the house thinking maybe I had a leak. And all it was the strainer inside, or the filter inside, was blocked, caked over with sandy loam or silt that got into the pipes somewhere along the way. So check your taps, check your filters. You can have filters, you can have timers on them as well. And if you're still concerned about blockage, even a better tip than this is to remember to go to the end of the line, and that's your drip line. For example, this drip line here, let's say this is the drip line, it's got an end plug on it. Go to the end of it, take the plug off, turn the pressure on, and flush it out. It's important that you flush them out every so often. So maybe once a month, once every 3 months, up to you. Test your irrigation, because otherwise it's a waste of time and a lot of losses to occur. There you go, folks. Now check out our website, as you know, as always. And remember, we are closing down. It's about a week to go before our Coburg store closes down. We are not going away. We are going wholesaling, so we won't be direct to public in a very short time. But in the meantime, while we still got the store open in Coburg, you can click and collect from our website, or you can pop down to the store and grab yourself a major bargain. Huge discounts on everything in store. Everything must go. And if you can't get to the store or pick it up or things like that, you can still order online, vasilisgarden.com, and we'll ship it out to interstate. But Vic people, we want you to come down to the store, and we'll be getting our products out to a garden centre near you very soon. It's all at vasilisgarden.com. And if you're watching this as it's just been uploaded, switch over to 3AW693. That's Weekend Gardening with Darren James. I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be at the garden centre. James Wall's going to be there, so you can have a listen to those guys, but then pop over to the garden centre and say hello and bring me your questions and great ideas and tips, and obviously get yourself ready for a big sale. From me, Vasili, Maresi.